Tonight, Shane Warne dead at 52. The cricket legend suffers a suspected heart attack in a Thailand villa.
The death of Australia's king of spin leaves former teammates heartbroken.
You're one of the world's great sportsmen.
Australia in grief. Hundreds pay tribute to the Victorian icon. The Great Southern Stand to be immediately renamed in his honour. Warne's family offered a state funeral.
Plus, war in Ukraine, Russia accused of nuclear terrorism, full coverage direct from the war zone.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Rebecca Maddern and Mike Amor.
Good evening from the MCG. Tonight, cricket fans here and around the world are paying tribute to Shane Warne. The Victorian cricket legend died in Thailand, aged just 52. All day, there's been a growing floral tribute here at the champion spinner's statue. The state government has already announced it's renaming the MCG's famous Great Southern Stand in his honour. Robert Avadia begins our coverage.
At the Melbourne Cricket Ground, where men weep, a crown is offered to the king of spin. Even to the old enemy, just as he was to us, Shane Warne dwarfed the game that made him famous. For the turn of a new century, he was our Don Bradman.
Got him! Larger than life, transcended not just sport but generations. The youngsters of today, Warnie's a name to them just as much as the youngsters of 30 years ago.
Shane Warne said farewell to us all from the Thai island of Koh Samui. Good night, he said, before a Thai paramedic would announce his death only hours later. When we arrived at the location, we saw the victim lying on the lower floor. A friend carried him downstairs and performed CPR. Warne had been watching cricket, about to go to dinner. A suspected heart attack, says Warne's manager, and it broke all our hearts when we woke this morning, none more so than those who forged their own legend alongside him.
We'd hang out a fair bit together and do, a fair bit together, as I said, even as a 15-year-old, he was...
And it's now starting to sink in that I've lost one of my great mates from the game of cricket. A guy, we shared some great moments on the field, but just shared some special moments off it as well.
Stunned, a bit numb, can't quite really believe what's happened. The highlight of my cricketing career was to wicket-keep to Shane Warne.
He was a genius as a cricketer, I think the best bowler there's ever been. And yet he played with the desperation of a working-class cricketer who was hanging on to his selection.
Warne, the everyday man who became a rock star. Hard to believe he's gone.
No matter what situation I was in, I always wanted the ball, and that's half the battle. In top-level sport as an athlete, scores are level, one ball to go, give me the ball, I'll do it.
The Australian Test team is in Pakistan, adorned by black armbands, processing the death of cricketing legend Rod Marsh yesterday, now Shane.
There's so many guys in this team and squad who still hold him as a hero, their all-time favourite player, and the loss that we're all trying to wrap our heads around is huge.
There was a minute's silence for our women in New Zealand too, and for England and the West Indies. No greater tribute than pausing to remember the man who haunted and humiliated them both more than any other on a cricket pitch. Against England, 198 wickets, a record.
And bowled him! How about that?
It began with this in the early 90s.
First ball, bail is off. He's bowled him. Gatting can't believe it.
What was dubbed cricket's ball of the century when a cocky, pudgy young blonde rolled his prodigious arm over for his first Ashes test on England's soil.
And I was nervous, I'm getting a bit nervous in my hands now thinking about it.
English pitchers traditionally resisted spin, but Warne was irresistible.
First ball in an Ashes series, and I felt bloody pretty good.
Warne was named alongside Bradman as one of Wisden's top 5 cricketers of the 20th century. To his opposition, he was a maestro, mesmerising and maddening.
Cricket close, very close. No, says the umpire. Yes, says Warne.
Flamboyant and aggressive on field with an arrogance justified by ability.
I wouldn't have liked to play against me. I was nasty.
His best Test innings grabbed 8 for 71, 10 wicket hauls in 10 tests, and surpassing Dennis Lillee as Australia's greatest wicket taker.
In the air, it's out, and that's the record.
By the end of his career, Shane Warne had doubled it. 145 tests, 708 wickets, his 700th at his beloved MCG. A 1994 Ashes hat-trick was also in Melbourne. And so it is here that a memorial grows at what only yesterday was a statue to a living legend.
There's too many memories of him. It's just a sad day for Victoria.
I've watched the ball of the century at least 100 times.
We will be renaming the Great Southern Stand, the SK Warne Stand.
The ultimate recognition, I guess, of you're one of the world's great sportsmen.
But so much more than a sportsman, Shane Warne was a showman.
To Australia's favourite son, Warne.
I've been practising a bit cricket as a surprise for you, Sharon.
Australians loved him perhaps not despite his flaws, but because of them.
He played up a little bit. I wish I was like him, you know.
But he liked his cigarettes, he liked his drink, his women, and he lived hard and played hard.
Not always by the rules either. In 1998, Warne was sanctioned for offering pitch information to a bookie.
I realised that I was very naive and stupid.
In 2003, a suspension for taking a banned dieting pill.
It was given to me by my mum.
But it was his voracious sexual appetite that London's tabloid newspapers consumed. Scandal after scandal, propositions, trysts, kiss and tells.
I've said all I wanted to say, I've got nothing to add. Thank you.
All endured by his wife Simone until their divorce in 2005.
It was a succession of papers of Shane's with this one, Shane's with that one, Shane's with this one, Shane's with that one.
He was with supermodel Liz Hurley too, until an affair with a porn star ended their engagement.
I wanted to be a full-time dad, and that was the major reason I retired, and I bloody loved it.
Warne is survived by 3 children, Brooke, Summer and Jackson, who spoke with Dad on SAS Australia.
Mate, we're so proud of you. You've done unbelievably well.
The Australian Government will be offering to the family a state funeral along with the Victorian State Government. It's important that we honour him both as a great Victorian but a great Australian.
A former great Australian who said, I want a big funeral with thousands there and a lot of love. And you know what Warne said? He said, I don't need that. I want everybody that comes to my funeral to have respected my life. And I think he's going to get that.
It's about knowing the right time, and I like to go out on top. I think I'm going out on my terms.
I don't have any regrets.
Think of the pleasure he's given us all. When the captain threw the ball to Warne, didn't you move forward on your seat? Didn't that excitement generate? You can't manufacture that. That's real. So that's what we've lost.
Robert Ovadia, 7 News.
Is on the ground in Thailand. Olivia, talk us through what happens next.
Well, Thai police are interviewing all 4 friends who are staying with Shane Warne in this villa, though they still maintain this afternoon. Investigators say that there has been no evidence of any foul play. The owners of the villa have banned all media from entering, but that has not stopped Australians who are either living here or visiting on holiday from coming to the entrance to lay floral wreaths in Shane Warne's honour. The response from Foreign Affairs officials has been swift, with DFAT working with Thai authorities now to organise for Shane Warne's body to be returned home so he can be farewelled. And we understand the ambassador to Thailand is due to arrive here in Koh Samui in coming hours.
Olivia Leeming in Thailand. Shane Warne's status as a Victorian sporting legend was never in doubt. The boy from Melbourne's Bayside suburbs leaves behind a lasting impact, as Nick McCallum reports.
At sporting clubs across the country, an enormous sense of loss.
He was always had time for everyone. Lovely bloke, you know. He was a larrikin, but everyone loved him.
Success came early for Warne. At his first cricket club, East Sandringham, he played in an under-12s premiership. There today, a shrine featuring his beloved beer and baked beans. A premiership too at Mentone Grammar at 17. The larrikin became a leader.
He was just a really good competitor, and when I made him captain, which probably surprised a few of the staff, he was just sensational. He was always just so positive.
But his first love as a kid was always footy.
I never really wanted to play cricket. I love cricket, but I'm AFL through and through.
He played under-19s and won reserves game for St Kilda before being dumped.
I just wasn't good enough, and that was a tough lesson to learn, that your dream was shattered.
It forced a life reassessment.
Studied accounting, but I didn't want to do accounting. I delivered beds, delivered pizzas. Luckily, I had a natural ability to spin the ball a long way.
So the brazen blonde turned up at St Kilda Cricket Club.
He came down thinking he was a batsman and a very part-time bowler, and obviously time proved that very, very wrong.
Today they were devastated, but could not help smiling at the memories. He spent a winter playing cricket in England and came back to St Kilda 20 kilograms heavier.
He got dropped from the seconds back to the thirds because he came back from England not in pristine condition.
I think he's asked Shane Warne to ask the crowd to settle down.
He always retained that youthful larrikinism, which allowed him to quell bottle-throwing crowds and kept his feet firmly on the ground.
Shane was the same a couple of days ago as the Shane that I met all those years ago.
And a heartfelt tribute today from Yale Con and her son Maxie.
What does Shane mean to your family?
Well, he was our saviour. He was our shining light.
Maxie was born with a mystery genetic illness.
I approached the Shane Warne Foundation as a desperate woman who was told that her son was going to die.
Shane's foundation helped pay for a trip to an American hospital where doctors diagnosed Maxie's illness, treated him and saved his life.
He was the reason my child is now 11 today and with us and thriving. What can I say? I owe him my life, and I'm just so devastated that he's lost his life.
Yet another legacy to be proud of. Nick McCallum, 7 News.
Shane Warne's statue here at the MCG has become the symbolic epicentre of Australia's shock and grief. Hundreds of fans have been arriving throughout the day to lay flowers, stop, pay their respects. A moment to reflect in the shadows of the mighty stadium where he so brilliantly plied his trade, and where the Great Southern Stand will now forever be known as the SK Warne Stand. Shane Warne was also admired beyond cricket, across the sporting spectrum. Among those who came by to pay their respects, Hawthorn Brownlow medalist Tom Mitchell.
I was pretty shocked, to be honest. Kind of similar to the Kobe Bryant incident a few years ago. That sort of shock and disbelief early, and then when the news is reinforced, very sad. So thinking of his family and friends.
Outside Australia, London was always one of Warne's favourite places. Live now to Hugh Whitfield outside Lord's Cricket Ground. Hugh, Shane Warne loved England, but England didn't always love Shane Warne.
Well, Beck, taking English wickets and causing heartache on field was almost a pastime for the legendary leg spinner, but there was plenty of success off the field amid the scandal as well. He cut his teeth commentating for Sky Sports, and of course he dated for a while Liz Hurley. And while he was a thorn in the side of many an Englishman, Shane Warne is being fondly remembered by the old enemy. At England's home of cricket, shock from fans.
Absolute legend and really, really sad.
Absolute champion, the best, really, really the best. The drama on and off the field, there'll never be another one like it.
Lord's was the scene of some of Shane Warne's greatest triumphs.
Oh, well bowled, it's gone right through Ijaz.
His portrait hangs in the ground's famous long room. The news of his death stopping tour guides in their tracks.
I was just about to go into the pavilion with a group of 24 people, and one of the guys in the group said,
Warne's dead, and we've only just got used to Rodney Marsh's passing, and so it's a huge shock.
I saw one of the best 2 hours session that I ever saw cricket here when he was playing for Hampshire. Just 2 hours bowling, and it's just so inventive and enthusiastic.
He dominated and partied at grounds all over England. Now remembered as an Australian the English could never really master, but always respected.
It was his character and the way he played the game. He was a showman. It was the whole theatre of it when he was bowling.
The news ricocheting around the cricketing world.
The Australian cricketer Shane Warne has died.
Even at the traditional home of his fiercest rival, the enigmatic Aussie is sorely missed. In London, Hugh Whitfield, 7 News.
Shane Warne's beloved St Kilda Footy Club is also in mourning. Mitch Cleary is at Marvel Stadium. Mitch, the Saints will pay tribute there tonight.
Mike, the Saints are remembering a man they've described as one of their most passionate and committed members who remained incredibly loyal to the club off field. Today, the club's AFLW side wore black armbands for their match at Maddern with flags at half-mast before a minute's silence, just as their AFL side will do here before their game against Essendon under the roof. Warne held incredibly close relationships with a number of big-name Saints over the years and made sure he was in Melbourne during the winter just for games, even passing on some cheeky advice on how they should play.
And I was on the end of a few phone calls right throughout. Ross Lyon, what's with this bloody defensive game plan? We've got to kick goals, Rui. We want to kick goals. So he was passionate and he was really excited about the future of the football club.
Tonight's minute silence will end at 7:08 p.m. The same number of wickets Shane Warne took during his incredible Test career. Mike?
Yeah, Saint to the end. Mitch Cleary, thank you. And we'll have more on Shane Warne throughout the hour on this special edition of 7 News. Beck.
Thank you so much, Mike. See you soon.
You're watching a special edition of 7 News. We're live at the MCG where there are growing tributes to Shane Warne. Our special coverage continues next.
Also, how you can play a part in deciding how many more COVID jabs we'll need. Plus, the Foo Fighters rock Geelong. And the game-changing DNA test designed to uncover the secrets of genetic diseases.
Welcome back to the MCG for our special coverage. There's no better image of Shane Warne than of him at full flight, weaving his magic inside the MCG. This statue has now become a memorial for the man most of us knew as Warne. You can see here flowers are being laid constantly since the news of the passing of his death, but also beer bottles, even a can of baked beans, a nod to his famous diet. There was also a pizza here laid here by some scallywag that was taken care of by a local dog, and I think Shane Warne would find that quite amusing. Let's have a look at some of the messages of support. Cheers to a great Victorian, one of the all-time greats, R.I.P. Warne, thanks for the memories, and also a St Kilda scarf, his love of the St Kilda Football Club. Long live the King, R.I.P. gone too soon. These tributes are being laid constantly since the news early this morning that Shane Warne has passed. And one of the people here is Dave. And Dave, how important was it for you to be here?
Pretty important. He's guy come from Bayside and become a global superstar and just stayed the normal bloke. That's why we loved him. He was just that normal guy.
How hard was it to hear that news this morning?
Devastating. At 1 a.m. a mate texted me from Dubai and told me the news and couldn't sleep and had been crying all night.
Yeah, it's hard to hear, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah.
Thank you. And of course, I think these floral tributes will continue to pile up here, be laid by the thousands of fans that Shane Warne had. Beck.
Oh, he would have loved all the stubbies. Thank you so much, Mike.
This is a special edition of 7 News. Still to come, the game goes on, how the Aussie cricket team is remembering Shane Warne in Pakistan.
Also, grave fears for an elderly man missing in Melbourne's eastern suburbs. Is supply catching demand in Melbourne's real estate market? And the AFL community special tribute to the Tasmanian town devastated by the Jumping Castle tragedy. Well, sport is next with Jackie Felgate. Jack, obviously Warne is front of mind for our cricket team.
Yeah, they're all in shock, Beck, but the match continues. The latest from the first test in Pakistan is next with the Aussies feeling the heat. A bruising trip to the Apple Isle as a Hawks star of the future stakes his claim. A pair of star Bulldogs lick their wounds as the Magpies push the to-go button. And the Power lose a key star for the start of the season. Welcome back. Australia's Test team faces an uphill battle after a moving tribute to the late Shane Warne at the start of day 2 of the first Test against Pakistan. The home side well on top at 1 for 303.
2 days running, black armbands and a moment's silence. First Rod Marsh, now Shane Warne.
He was loved by every single person in the world that knows the game of cricket, and people who don't know the game of cricket. I just can't believe it. He's gone.
The game was never the same after Warne emerged, and the game will never be the same after his passing. Rest in peace, King.
Loved across the cricket world, the crowd craved one last cameo. One spell from the late spin king would have been much appreciated by Pat Cummins. Resuming at 1 for 245, the captain tried to blast out Amar al-Haq. The century maker hit on the glove and grill, but okay. Plenty of short stuff from the pace spearheads. Even Cameron Green got in on the act before Azhar Ali turned on Nathan Lyon.
Different, he's got that away superbly. That's out of the middle, that takes him to 90 now.
Imam passed 150, prompting a Brains Trust emergency meeting, but more of the same. Mitch Starc sitting down Azhar, who's still standing. At lunch, Pakistan won for 302. What Australia would do now for a blonde leg spinner. Andrew McKinlay, 7 News.
Shane Warne was smiling down on the Saints AFLW team after a minute's silence for the St Kilda supporter. Nick Del Santo's team defied 3 defeats by 5 points or less this season to hang on against the Cats.
Had a horror run to start 2022, but today they win back-to-back matches for the first time in their history.
And Beck, that wraps up a really sad day in sport, but the SK Warne stand, I couldn't think of a more fitting tribute.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much, Jackie.
Good. Beck, Mike.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Mike, it certainly has been an emotional and very sad day.
Yeah, it has been, Beck. A day cricket fans across this country will always remember. That's all for this special edition of 7 News. We'll leave you with a look back at Shane Warne's great life. For now, from the 7 News team, have a great night.
First ball, bail is off.
There's just other side of him that's just hilarious and just not many people see, I don't think.
Oh, well bowled. He's gone right through each as.
How are you one of the best cricketers in the world?
He's just
completely different person.
A dorky, blokey dad.
That's a hat-trick to Shane Warne, a great moment in his career.
Every young kid in Australia wanted to be Shane Warne and wanted to bowl leg spins.
I wouldn't have liked to play against me. I was nasty. I liked loud music, I was smoked, I drank, and I bowled a bit of leg spin, you know, that was sort of me.
The highlight of my cricketing career was to wicket keep to Shane Warne.